I have a confession to make. Please don't hate me. It's really difficult for me to admit outright, so let me tell you a story. By the time I reach the end, you will know what it is. So let me start off by saying, just for reference, that I'm a female in my 20s. It all started when I met this guy back in the summer of 2011. Because of me, this whole thing is very famous, or should I say infamous. So at some point, when all this starts to sound familiar, you will know who I am and what I'm talking about. Unless you missed the whole thing. He had an online presence, as did I, albeit a smaller one than him. So I knew who he was before we even met. I fell hard and fast. Life with this guy may have been a constant crazy roller coaster, but he was so adorable and quirky. How can anyone not love him? With a promise of doing projects and stuff together, I moved out to the coast to be close to him. This was the first of many empty promises. He talked a good game though, that's the thing. He'd say anything and everything. One minute I was like the best thing ever, and the next he was acting like I hardly existed. He once suggested that we say we are dating just to see how his fans would react. But later, when I called him out for cheating on me, he insisted that he told me he didn't want anything serious, and asked I not say anything publicly, acting like it was no big deal. The cheating wasn't even the worst of it. Things quickly got darker as his monstrous side reared its ugly head. He's a very unstable man, but boy could he party. He drinks and does drugs, the latter of which I may or may not have encouraged. I refuse to specify for fear of self-incrimination. And he always has at least one woman on the go. I mean, he's a gifted charmer. Just one of those people. This means, of course, that his knack for verbally assaulting you and reducing you to tears is easily forgiven, simply because he has such a way with words and makes you feel like the centre of the universe whenever you're in a regular conversation with him. Sometimes I ask myself why I stuck around, but the truth is, I'm crazy about him. He's the most amazing man on the planet. Good looking, funny, charming, sexy, charismatic, the whole package. That's why I love him so much, see, despite his many flaws. I know, deep down, he's a good man. When he's not being a total nightmare, his pure heart is easy to see. That's why I stupidly stayed. As I said before, he's pretty wild. He also has a very enthusiastic, touchy-feely manner with people, particularly attractive young women. This is oddly one of the many things I found most appealing about him. With him, you never knew what was coming next. Every day was an adventure, which is so exciting. Of course, this wasn't always a good thing. As I hinted at, the verbal abuse was devastating at times, and of course I'd always come off worst. After he made me feel like utter crap and terrified me by violently lashing out at the walls and furniture whilst I cried in the corner. Although he scared the bejesus out of me, he never physically laid a hand on me, at least not in that way. Although I think the emotional abuse would have been easier to take if he had have been beating me. It hurts me to admit the following, but I'm here to tell the truth. So here goes. Even though he kissed me at seemingly any opportunity, would randomly, for reasons known only to him, rip my clothes off and constantly threw flirty euphemisms my way, we never had sex. Ever. Due to the kissing and touching and all that, I know, deep down, he wanted me, at least on some level. Believe me, the opportunities were there in spades. He just never took any of them. Which is funny, in a twisted way, considering who he is and how much he loves screwing women. in every sense. Eventually things came to a head for me during a trip to a theme park we took together. I finally confessed to him that I love him more than anybody else in the whole world, and I can never love anybody more. And you know how he responded. He said we could never be more than friends, and asked me not to talk like that. Had the nerve to say that I was making him uncomfortable. So all this time, he's just been leading me on, and after everything he's put me through, I'm suddenly the one being unreasonable. Unbelievable. But it wasn't just that. It was the look on his face. He slapped me without so much as lifting a finger. Embarrassed that he had humiliated me by rejecting me so coldly, I quickly backtracked. Told him he got the wrong end of the stick and assured him that I actually had a boyfriend. Desperate to divert attention, I threw into the conversation how my boyfriend was going through hell at the moment because of a post another woman has made on social media accusing him of rape. I could see he was shocked and successfully distracted. I said how clearly false the accusation against my boyfriend is, and how unfair it is that he gets destroyed while his accuser is totally unaffected. He proceeds to question me about it, clearly concerned for my welfare and making sure that I thought I was safe with my boyfriend. Told me if I was ever in any doubt to make sure I take action. His concern for me was so incredibly sweet. Sadly, his rejection had left a coldness in my heart where love used to be. He doesn't want me. After everything that's happened during our relationship, how can he say that? I've got to give it to him. He still knows what buttons to push to hurt me. To really hurt me. He said he doesn't understand why women lie about something so serious. That he just can't imagine what it takes for somebody to put a man through all that. I mean, is he kidding? That statement is just so funny, coming from him. That was when a beautiful idea began germinating in my mind. So, taking the opportunity to try and get his clear-cut views on the whole consent thing, I said, maybe the woman just misinterpreted what happened. He then assured me there is definitely no grey area. When things get heated, if she says stop or is clearly not into it, the whole thing grinds to a halt. There is no misunderstanding to be had. Either rape takes place, or it doesn't. If she's not interested, that in itself is a big turn-off. Wow, I smiled at his naivety. Of course there's a grey area. If he hasn't seen it, it's pretty funny, considering it's him. I know from personal experience how that bullshit goes. Things get heated, as he put it, and it reaches a point where you don't want things to go any further for whatever reason. He's already made it clear what he wants, so you say something. Then he resorts to verbal persuasion. Don't I love him? Well, then I have to prove it. No? In that case, I really don't love him and don't want to be with him. Even though you'd really rather not, you end up getting intimate anyway. At the time, it's just sex. But later, upon reflection, it seems a lot darker. I mean, you tell me what just happened. It wasn't even violent. Was that rape? By the way, this is a genuine personal experience and absolutely nothing to do with the man in question here. So, he wants to pretend I don't mean anything to him, that I'm just a friend. Okay, well, that's fine. He wants to play it like that, so be it. He's not the only one who can viciously lie. His refusal to be in a proper relationship with me has destroyed me more than he knows. The rejection helping me remove the rose-tinted specs I've been wearing for so long. I finally saw him for the monster he really is, and it's my turn to destroy him. I know they say an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, but whoever came up with that clearly never knew the satisfaction of revenge. A couple of months after the trip, I prepared to make my own post on social media. I was spurred into action after seeing the video he made with his new girlfriend. I mean, they look so goddamn happy, and it's not right. That should be us, me and him, not her, or any other woman for that matter. But it's okay, they won't be happy for long. I poured out the whole sordid mess of our entire relationship into the post, and added a few fictional twists to make it read better. I mean, if it was the entire truth, there'd be no point. What makes it so perfect is that just being in his life leaves you with a goldmine of experiences that would leave any good HR department with a lot of questions. I mean, come on, he screws anything with boobs, doesn't even know how to spell committed relationship, and will randomly rip your clothes off for unknown reasons. He drinks, he does drugs, he's aggressive, violent and emotionally abusive, but charming with it. I'm so done with him and his bullshit. And after this, so will everyone else be. After having a couple of drinks to steady my nerves, I began typing. Before I start, I want to say that this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Then I really lay it on thick, using so much real experience. It ought to really help the post ring true. I cleverly slip in hints about rape throughout the post, without being overly blunt about it. Such as, he thinks it's a game to keep going when I said no. He sets me down on the end of the bed and starts having sex with me. I'm so screwed up on drugs that I'm not sure what happened. All I know is I fell asleep with him cuddling me on his beanbag chair. Did we have sex? Did we only talk? I don't know. The last time I ever had sex with him isn't by choice, of course. It's a violent hate fuck because he thought I was flirting with another man at his party. See? Clever, right? Try talking your way out of that, Mr. Smooth. I finished with some rubbish about being triggered after seeing one of his toys at the store and practically having a breakdown. It may sound a little over-dramatic, but you've got to have a strong finish with something like this. After hitting post, I smiled, sat back, and drained my glass, waiting for his world to come crashing down, and boy did it ever. I was floored by the immediateness of the response and the speed at which the whole thing gathered pace and took off. The story was quickly picked up by the online community and spread like wildfire. My name was everywhere. I was suddenly famous as his ex-girlfriend. It was amazing. He was vilified by the entire world, and his friends and acquaintances couldn't drop him fast enough. His name became synonymous with mine and the rape accusation. The outpouring of support I received was overwhelming. Pretty much everyone believed me without question. There were, of course, those who called me out as a liar and stood by him, but overall, they were in the minority. His healthy sub count on YouTube took a nosedive. And what did he have to say in his own defence? Nothing. How perfect! It just adds to my credibility. I don't think the 1-minute video he posted denying my claims counts because he addressed nothing at all. He simply called me a liar. Oh, boo-hoo. Tell someone who cares. Sure, he did look very broken, and that's actually a beautiful sight. It's nice to see the tables finally turned, and I did that. All the abuse he's put me and many other women through, but I'm the one who showed him a mirror. I'm the one who reduced him to tears. I guess I'm not so weak and pathetic now, huh? I've had plenty of hate directed at me by the small group of poor deluded die-hard fans he's managed to hold on to, but they're easy enough to deal with. Bless them, it's not their fault, they just don't know any better. They're too stupid to be able to see him for the arsehole he really is, even after everything I've said. The drama gave a welcome boost to my own channel, but sadly I felt it necessary to disable comments and ratings on all my videos to stop the backlash affecting it. I spent a lot of time defending myself online, but that's okay. It really helps that he's kept his head down and hidden away. When people have nothing else to go on, who are they more likely to believe? Other women even came out in support of me with their own horror stories about him. See, I knew he's such a toxic person that he must have done that shit to other women. It's nice to see that I'm right. So what finally changed, I hear you ask? To be honest, nothing. I'm still proud of what I did. I brought him down. I wrecked his life. This fantastic guy with questionable standards, this big YouTuber who everyone thinks the sun shines out of his arse. And I reduced him to just some creep on the internet. And nobody. How many people can say that? He made a recent post giving his side of things. Finally. It's too little too late if you ask me. And just this once, I'll give him a pass for calling me a lying bitch. He finished the video by saying, we need to make sure the truth is being told. And that means both sides. Right, sure, of course you think that. What else are you going to say? Then he stared off into space. And in that moment, I saw it. I saw his pain. The hell he's been through. The broken trust. The weight of 1,000 voices branding him a rapist. As his face told of all the unspoken words running through his head. That was when I realised that maybe, just maybe, I'd gone too far. Don't get me wrong, it's still satisfying as hell to see him so traumatised. But after 2 years of telling this lie, it's starting to get boring. The thing he doesn't understand is that I can never take that back. If I did, the whole thing would backfire on me and I'd be ruined. So, thanks dude, but no thanks. I don't feel like telling the truth. Not today. Not ever, really. I mean, maybe one day I'll do it. Who knows? But not yet. He also said in that last video that he almost gave up. And to that I say, good. Please do. The world could do with one less shitty person in it. Sadly, he also reckons he won't give up on it. Well, he's more than welcome to change his mind anytime. I already have more and more people turning on me. Not that his recent denial helped that at all. I mean, my post accusing him was torn apart long ago, and more people are starting to see that he is telling the truth. But so what? The damage is done. He's forever branded, his reputation forever tarnished, his soul permanently destroyed. No amount of truth-telling can ever change that, so there's no point. I'm therefore left in this awkward position where I'm forced to stand by what I said, and for the moment, that's fine with me. So promise this will remain just between us, because I absolutely have to get this off my chest without anybody knowing. Yes, I lied about being raped and accused an innocent man, and it's the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. So here is my confession. Please don't hate me. Wow, that was intense. I can't let this stand alone as just another story, because it's not. If you haven't already figured it out, or totally missed that thing a couple of years ago, this is really serious. I know, I look fantastic. If you'll excuse how tired I look, this isn't about me. It's about Toby Turner and April F. I tried to put myself in her shoes when writing this account and tried to figure out what the hell she was thinking, but I can only really guess. As you've probably already worked out, I believe Toby in this. I think April lied, big time. So where's the proof of that? Well, evidence is hard to come by. Her post is full of contradictions, which isn't proof in itself, but it gives her less credibility. And thankfully, some very wise person deconstructed it. But I did find this. I'll just leave that there. I mean, it's probably totally fake because anything can be photoshopped on the internet these days, but it's out there. And for reference, this is my right and this is my left. There is a special place in hell reserved for women who lie about rape. Now let me quickly say that I don't believe hell is a place people can really go. I think that's BS, made up long ago by the church in order to scare people into being good Christians. Real hell is somewhere evil exists, such as demons and other evil entities, you know, the non-human sort. Everybody human goes to heaven. Some of us just need a shitload of therapy when we get there. I mean, think about it. If God truly is all-forgiving and all that, how could some people be denied entry into heaven? It just doesn't fit. Of course, I could be wrong, but either way, that line sounds good, doesn't it? I was inspired to do this after watching Toby's recent video telling his side of things. When I realised how much potential this whole situation has, story-wise. I mean, in case you don't know, I'm a writer. I adore creating fiction, and real life is often wilder than anything people can dream up. Then there is the fact the situation is so real and serious. It's not right to just make up or twist real events for the sake of a good piece of fiction. And believe me, the story you just listened to is not just a good piece of fiction. Writing it makes me feel sick to my stomach. Not just because I believe he is innocent, but because I'm writing from the viewpoint of a woman who lied about being raped just to be a spiteful bitch. And it goes without saying, but I'll say this anyway. Rape is one of the worst things one human can do to another, and so is lying about it. Women who lie about rape are the scum of the earth. My conflicting feelings about doing this are overridden by the strength of my feelings about injustice and liars and my desire to call out those who fabricate tales of rape as being amongst the lowest evil that exists in our world. Thank God this whole thing has absolutely nothing to do with me, because I hate real-life drama. It's way too messy and has a tendency to hurt everyone involved. But as I said, I also hate injustice with a passion. Everyone was all too quick to call out Toby as a rapist initially. Over time, I can see things have changed a little, at least for some, but I'm not sure enough people are publicly supporting him. The most upsetting thing is that this is a big he said, she said, and when it comes to those, it's often hard to know what to make of it, and even harder to openly take sides. Nobody likes getting involved. Victims are automatically believed outright, and so they should be. But when she's lying, even if there isn't proof, how is it morally right to pick a side? It may be a rarity, statistically speaking, but men are often wrongly accused of sexual assault, and the damage is permanent. Maybe Toby, bless him, could be a bit of a shitty person at times, but that does not in any way automatically make him a rapist. There is a big difference between being touchy-feely with any woman who crosses your path to the point of making them uncomfortable and technically assaulting them on some level, to committing full-on, all-out, blatant rape. Big difference. Honestly, I was conflicted to start with. April's claims are so shocking that I didn't question them. As a woman and a victim of genuine sexual assault myself, I wanted to believe her. After all, she does claim to be a victim. But then I look at Toby, and I just don't buy it. It's like being a traitor to my gender. You don't have to believe me. I don't care either way. But I still find it hard to believe that the man who raped me actually did that. I never would have thought he was capable of that. Not in a million years. The experience broke my trust in men completely. I'm left with constant doubts. I know deep down there are plenty of good men out there, but I always have questions. I'm left wondering how you can really know what any man is capable of. Let me just make it clear that the man I'm talking about here, who will remain anonymous, is absolutely not Toby, in case it sounds like that. My God, I hope it doesn't. My point here is that even though I wanted to believe him, My experience left me with underlying doubts, so I had no idea what to think. But over time, the more I've learnt about it from all the accounts floating around, the more I believed him. I mean, look at his 1-minute video from back in the day. If he was guilty, he would not look so absolutely devastated. It's incredibly short, and I found it online, so let me give you a brief reminder.
A person I dated a few years ago has just made some extremely serious, false accusations about me. And I want to be crystal clear. I've never done anything without her consent. I've never tried to trick her into anything. I read her Tumblr post and I was shocked and I was hurt. These allegations are absolutely false. I just wanted to address it. That's all.
I believe that is the face of an innocent man. I mean, don't you? I know there are some who still think he's an abusive monster and will always think that. You're entitled to that opinion. Sure, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Even if he was guilty, what's he going to do? Throw up its hands and say, you got me? As for April, I don't want to sit here and spew profanity-filled hatred. That's not who I am. She knows what she did. Toby sounds like a bit of a ladies' man, to put it kindly, but even he was smart enough not to put his dick in crazy. She just wished he had. Maybe that's the whole problem. I mean, how can she live with herself? Seriously. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting she deserves to die, but if that was me... Nope, I can't do it. I can't put myself there. I feel sick enough just writing this thing from her perspective. So the question stands, how can she? People think men are strong, but I think everyone forgets one little thing about women. He raped me are 3 of the most powerful words a woman can say. And you better make damn sure it's true before you open your mouth. We really shouldn't need to say this, but let me give you a quick lesson, ladies. If things are getting steamy with a man, and you don't want him to put his dick inside you, but he does anyway, that's rape. The footnote here is a question. Does he know you don't want it? I'm not trying to excuse rape, but if you don't say no, and or your body language is not yelling at him to stop, here's a shocker for you. He isn't going to know. Men are not psychic. Sometimes even subtle denials of consent is not enough. It's not their fault. Under some circumstances, men are a little slow. It happens to everyone. You might need to be a bit more blunt about it. And I'm afraid to say, regretting it the morning after, or when your boyfriend finds out, doesn't count as non-consent, by the way. If you wanted him when the encounter took place, you have no right to later claim sexual assault. It's not fair on him. If you know what it's like to have a man forcefully pull off your jeans and knickers while you try your hardest to hold them up, and then pry your legs apart before entering you when you've said no multiple times. If you know how it feels to then have him tell you that you must want it because you're moist, with no real understanding of how bodies work. If you know the betrayal and confusion that follows because he is someone that loves you and is not supposed to do that. If you know what it's like the first time you try and tell someone, to have the words that repeat over and over in your mind stubbornly refuse to cross your lips. If you know the stress that follows reporting to the police, maybe years after the fact, and you aren't even sure if your family believes you. If you know what it's like when your dad suggests that maybe you should make sure this doesn't reach court because it's for the best. If you know what it's like to be so emotionally affected by things that you start cutting yourself as a coping mechanism. If you know what it's like to lose faith in men and be worried for your safety when alone in the company of a man who in all probability would never in a million years think about doing something against your will. If you know what it's like to live with mental scars that never go away. Congratulations, you're a rape victim. And yes, it's not some kind of merit badge. I'd really rather not be in that I was raped club, but I can't change what happened. I can only move on with my life and put it behind me, which I have done. It doesn't make it any easier to talk about. If you're among the lucky ones who've never been violated, don't you dare claim otherwise. You have no idea what it's like, so don't pretend you do. I'm glad Toby's finally publicly rebuffed her accusations with slightly more than a tearful professional innocence. He's totally justified in saying what happened. Whoever told him not to was wrong. You know, not all rapists are bad. Sometimes people just make mistakes. But there is a massive difference between living with the knowledge of what you did to a woman and spending the rest of your life having virtually everyone tell you that you deserve to die whilst you tried to figure out why this woman, who you thought was your friend and a nice person, told everyone you did something that blatantly didn't happen and you would never contemplate doing. If the man I'm talking about happens upon this video, I'm sorry. This was never meant for you. I know it hurts to face what happened. I'm just using my experiences to help solidify the points I'm trying to make. Don't worry, only you and me know that I'm talking about you. I never intended to get so personal with this. This isn't even about me. God, I hate he said, she said stuff. The more time that passes, the harder it is to prove a rape took place. And it's always impossible to prove you are innocent. I mean, how can you prove that something never happened? It's ridiculous. Something big that goes against April's credibility, aside from her post being full of contradictions, is that she never went to the police. Sure, she said she did, somewhere at some point, but I think that was bullshit too, wasn't it? And let me tell you something, when you make a report to the police, the accused man is arrested and soon after questioned under caution. It's probably slightly different in America compared to the UK. I don't know for sure. But if this had happened to Toby, don't you think we'd have heard about it? I mean, he's a big enough member of the community, and the rape story is so massive that any further action would have been unavoidably well known and widely talked about. It may take a long time to reach court, if that ever happens, but not an arrest. A delay in going to the place is plausible. A lot of people do that. Hell, it took me years, and I suppose some never go at all. But why do a social media post instead? I'll tell you why, because she's full of it. If you're strong enough to deal with everything that goes along with posting about it on social media, then you're ready to make a police report. All she needed to do was share her fake-ass story on social media, and the damage was done. Legal action is not necessary when you have the court of public opinion to try him. It doesn't even matter what percentage of people is on whose side. His guilt or innocence will always be in question, forever. If she came out and said it was all a lie, the damage can never be undone. I'm glad he's trying to move on with his life and that he has people on his side. Not everyone believes her. That's good. I think I've made this way longer than I intended to, so thank you for sticking around, anyone who's still here. I know this is different from my normal content. So in closing, well, nobody much is ever going to see this, and that's fine with me. I've said my piece. But if I could say anything to April, it'd be this.
Stupid lying bitch.
And again with feeling, Tobes, come on, you can do better than that. No, for real though. I hope you're proud of yourself. You absolute evil woman. Look what you've done. There is no excuse. Excuse the truck outside. You've already ruined the poor man with your vicious lies. What more do you want? That's about as strongly worded as I can get without resorting to a profanity-filled rant, and I refuse to sink that low. Lucky for her.